Good push. What's up, everybody, and welcome to another edition of our Mythology. The show where I get higher than the fiery top of Hinderfell Mountain, where Brunhilda sleeps, waiting for her long-lost love. Or never met love. And we tell you guys silly stories from mythology and folklore. Today, we will be bringing you the second part of the Volsung Saga, the story of Sigurd and Siegfried.
Just want you to know, I didn't push. It literally just bubbled up into my neck and then...
Perfect timing. Perfect timing. So if you've listened to last week's episode, if you haven't, first of all, I suggest you do, because it's one of the beginning of the most epic Viking saga ever told. But just in case you didn't, I'll give you a slight recap. So there was a son of Odin who was a badass, who basically kept having children and getting fucked every generation, and the children would get big.
Shit happened.
Some Lannister shit happened. Lady was pregnant for 6 years. Gave birth to a full-grown man. And then there was some treachery. I'll start better with the recap on the last part. Sigmund, who was the guy who had banged his sister, and Sigurd's father, had a sword, and it was destroyed on the battlefield by Odin, and he died.
You know what? Fuck you. Just listen to part one.
Yeah, listen to part one. You'll get the full story. That was a horrible recap, by the way. Horrible recap.
You tried.
Compared to how epic the story was. Hella epic, y'all. Hella epic. So we pick up today with Sigurd, who, like his father, Sigmund, and his grandfather, Volsung, grew at a rapid pace, both in size and strength. After his mother had fled and his father had died, his mother married a king where, I shit you not, his name was Alf. Alf. And he ate cats. Mm-hmm. No, he didn't really eat cats, but he was an alien who ate cats.
Wow.
No, but so Alf, basically, when Sigurd started to look like a man, which, knowing their family, is probably at like 5.
Yeah.
Gave permission for Sigurd to choose any horse he wished from the stable.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I get to pick my own pony.
I get to pick my pony. But as he was on his way, he was met by an old man with one eye.
Uh-huh.
None other than the Allfather himself in disguise.
I'm starting to wonder if it's a curse to be known by him.
Yeah, he just keeps showing up. But yeah, he had a good pick. He directed Sigurd to a horse that was a young gray horse, and the horse just so happened to be descended directly from Sleipnir.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, Odin's personal fucking horse, and the child of Loki. Yeah. In case you haven't listened to that episode at all, we did an episode about that. Also, Loki fucks a horse.
And also, fuck you should have listened to it already.
I'm sure you did. I have faith in you.
I know. Yeah. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. It's the most viewed one.
But the horse's name became Granny, or, as it's translated, Greyfell. Granty. Yeah. So, as Sigurd was growing up, he got tutored by a man named Rain, who pretty much acted like a foster brother to him. Rain was actually a giant, also.
Just like himself.
Yeah.
Are you sure they're not related? 2 different giants hanging out.
2 different giants hanging out. Yeah, he's actually not a giant, which is the weird part. He's just a big motherfucker.
Okay. So NBA player higher.
Yeah. But he is actually hanging out with giants because
but not giant.
So Rain was the son of Hridmar, and the brother of Otter, and Fafnir. And I accidentally... Hreidmar. That's right, Hreidmar.
No, the H is silent. Hreidmar.
Okay. Yeah, and he's the brother of Otter and Fafnir. And so, backstory on them. Otter was able to shape change into an otter. And Loki, who was traveling with Odin and Honir one day, saw Otyr by the river in his otter form and killed him and skinned the otter. Loki wore the pelt over his shoulder, and when Loki, Odin, and Honir came to Hreidmar's estate and imposed upon the owner for hospitality, Hreidmar got pissed because he noticed his son's skin hanging over fucking Loki's shoulder. Uh-oh.
It was a fucking otter, bro.
It was an otter, yeah. It was Otyr.
It looked all cute and shit.
Hreidmar captured them and chained the gods up. And he said he would release them on the condition that Loki pay them, or on the condition that they pay him a ransom. Loki agreed to do it and was released. Loki knew that there was only one thing basically that would be a good enough ransom, and that was the treasure of Andvari, the dwarf.
Dwarfs do like their money.
Mm-hmm. Andvari not only owned a treasure hoard, but a magic golden ring called the Ardvanat. Andvaranat. The Andvaranat could help him find or make more gold. Yeah.
Much like the magic ring that Odin received.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, but this ring also would go on later to inspire a whole tale about getting a ring from a dwarf in a cave. Apparently, this story was a big part of Tolkien's inspiration for The Lord of the Rings.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Namely, especially The Hobbit. And there are some serious Hobbit things you can see in here, like with the dragon and whatnot. And the ring, yeah. And invisibility.
Instead of a ring, let's make it a rock.
Let's make it a rock, yeah. But
shine so pretty.
Oh yeah, so Loki managed to steal the treasure, but Andvari escaped with the ring by changing himself into a salmon. Yeah. Loki eventually captured him.
Why the fuck are they turning into rams?
Yeah, that's what they like to do. Loki eventually captured him and tortured him until he gave up the Andvaranat, the magical ring. But as Loki split, Andvari cursed the ring, saying tragedy would fall upon any mortal who wore the ring.
Uh-oh.
Mm-hmm. Loki returned with the ransom, which is, I love this, also, which was called in Nordic the Otter Guild, meaning the Otter's Ransom. Or, as it was later known, as Rheingold. Yeah. I also think it's supposed to have something to do with the river Rhine in location.
Interesting.
If I recall. Yeah. So once they got the treasure, he released them, let the gods go, and forgot all about the grief over his son. Eventually, Hreidmar's two other sons wanted a share in the treasure. Rain and Fafnir.
Okay.
But the treasure, being that it was cursed, caused him to do crazy shit. Like, Fafnir eventually murdered his own father and then drove Rain away and kicked him out of the land.
Uh-oh.
And then he went to sit on the hoard, basically, and the greed transformed Fafnir into a great fucking dragon.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So there we have the dragon in the mountain on the fucking... On Misty Mountains.
Maleficent could turn into a dragon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Some fucking salmon.
Yeah, and I'll mention that too in the Germanic version. which I'm hoping to. I'm sure we'll have time to cover all that today. But that version is slightly different on what Fafnir is and who he is.
He wasn't lured in by a fucking string.
No, no strings attached. So yeah, Fafnir
Wasn't flaxing them seeds.
Or Rain, as he was raising Sigurd, drilled this fucking story into his head about how he was fucked out of his treasure by a dragon and pushed out of his kingdom.
Ah, shit.
Knowing that Sigurd, growing up, would eventually be like, no, like you've acted like a father to me. I'm gonna go fucking kill that dragon and get your shit back, bro.
Oh.
But to face the dragon, Sigurd would need a weapon. He would need a sword, and his sword of his youth was still broken.
Yeah, his gift from Mama.
Mm-hmm. Twice, Rain had tried to remake the sword, and each time it broke. It broke apart on the anvil. Because after they'd make the sword, you'd strike the anvil to see if the sword was sturdy. And every time they did it, the sword shattered. Eventually, Sigurd decided that he would do it himself. And he reforged the broken sword mainly through... Basically, that's where they kind of talk about his strength and speed, because a lot of it was just he could work the billows faster than anyone else because he was incredibly strong. But yeah, he was able to get it hot enough, and he reforged. He popped enough iron, and he reforged Graham, the great sword.
Oh, shit.
And when he went to hit the anvil to see if it worked, the anvil cut perfectly in two all the way down to the dirt.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And again,
hey guys, I think that's done.
I think it's good. It's good, right?
What do you guys think?
Rain, does this look good?
Got your own axe, right?
Yeah.
Do we need to buy you another anvil?
Do you need another anvil, or are we done here? Yeah.
You need to forge this yourself. How are you going to mend this one?
Yeah.
Whose anvil do you need to use?
Whose anvil? Yeah. Well, so yeah, the sword. If you didn't catch last week's episode, the sword guarantees whoever wields it in battle victory.
Whoever wields it in general.
In general, you get victory. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a special gift from Odin, and pretty badass sword. Yeah. And you're invulnerable. Yeah. So. Yeah. Well, and if that wasn't enough, he gets even more invulnerability. Sigurd basically gets tits out to the max.
And he sees all the tits out.
Mm-hmm. All of them. Just Valkyrie titties. Just motorboating.
Interesting.
But that's yeah. Sorry, long shipping.
Like there's still 42 more Valkyries to go through.
Yeah, there's so many Valkyries. But yeah, so once he had his sword forged, he decided that before he went after Fafnir, he was going to avenge the death of his father and his grandfather, Emily. King Emily. Yeah. Elimi. Yeah. There's a last week joke for you there, folks. Yeah. Sigurd went out and he killed all of the guys' sons who had come after them, and then killed him. Basically just took out his entire kingdom.
Fuck you guys.
Yep.
It happens a lot.
Yeah, it does. That seems to be a pretty common thing here.
His poor family.
Yeah, in the Volsung Saga alone, there's been just tons of and then he killed him and took over a kingdom. He genocided his whole family, and then he took over. Yeah.
Good God.
Yeah. So Sigurd and Rain then went to
I hope the ducks made
Giddenheath, as it was called, or the Glittering Heath, which is
the Glittering Heath.
The fucking treasure mound of Fafnir.
I was like, this is what Twilight hangs around.
Yeah. A Glittering Heath. Oh, Jesus. That's what we could have ended up with if Heath Ledger hadn't died and if Twilight had a bigger budget.
Yeah. We'd be looking at him.
A Glittering Heath.
This is him as an adult now.
Yeah. So, Sigurd went there and was trying to figure out a way that he could wait for the dragon to come out of its lair. And he didn't want to stand there because anyone who had stood there had been cut down. And it depends on the myth. They had either been eaten or cut down by fire. Because also in some of the myths, especially in the medieval one, this motherfucker breathed some fire.
Oh shit!
Spitting hot fire. Yeah, yeah. You should hear his demo tape.
Oh shit!
It's dope.
I can imagine this little Asian rapper.
It's just, yeah. MC Fafnir in the house. Whap, whap, whap.
Oh, Prof hangs out with one.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
Yeah. So, he decided that he would come up with a cool little trick. Sigurd dug a hole in front of the cave, tall enough for him to kneel down in, and he hid in the hole and waited for the dragon to come out and walk over him.
Stealth, motherfucker.
Stealth, motherfuckers.
And stab your toe.
Yeah.
It's gonna feel like a toothpick.
Well, as it was walking over him, he shot the great sword up and stabbed its heart and then cut out its innards,
Through
basically.
his hand? Through his hand?
No, because it was walking. Basically, he got the middle of the path, so it walked directly over him, and then he just right up in it, and it basically just let loose a torrent of blood all over his body. Which
some Carrie shit, huh?
Yeah, which started burning. Oh yeah, this is where the River Rhine comes in. The blood started burning him, because it's hot dragon's blood, and so he got up and jumped in the River Rhine.
Like
to cool
hours.
off. And basically, because he did that, he quenched his body like steel with dragon's blood.
Oh shit!
So he could no longer be cut by any piercing object or stabbing object.
So he's just red now.
He's basically
blackface.
Well, the way they make it sound is blackface. I hope not. No Zwarte Pete's over here. Yeah.
Shit.
From the way they make it sound, he looks regular, but he basically is like Colossus from that point on.
Okay.
Where he just has steel skin. Yeah. Or what was his name? What's his name? Luke Cage. Some Luke Cage shit.
Oh, yeah.
He's a cracker Luke Cage. Crack-ass Luke Cage.
Okay, I'm down.
Yeah. Yeah. So after that, once he killed the dragon, Rain wanted the treasure for himself, basically.
Of course he did.
Apparently, the treasure had already got to Rain from before this, and his entire plan from the get-go in training Sigurd, which is super fucked up because he's put years into Sigurd. His entire goal has been to get the dragon's hoard. Mm-hmm. That's all he's ever wanted is the fucking ring. Okay. And the dragon's hoard. The one ring, my precious. So he gets very my precious-y about it, and then tells Sigurd that he will only not exact vengeance for the slaying of his brother. Because now that he's talked him into doing it, he instantly turns around and says, like, you just killed my brother. By all rights, I'm within, like, I can legally kill you. Because you just murdered my brother. And if you want me to not do that, you have to give me the treasure, and you have to cook me his heart. Because he wanted to eat his heart. Because apparently there's a thing in Norse mythology where any man who devours the heart of a dragon will have power over all other men. And beasts. And beasts. Yeah. Jesus. So Sigurd agreed. Because, he's not even trying to start shit like that. He's just like, yeah, duh, totally, totally, buddy. Like, why are you being so weird, Rain? You kind of raised me. Why are you getting all my precious-y over there? Yeah, my precious. But, so, Sigurd cooked the heart over an open fire. Okay. And when he was cooking it, he went to test a little piece to see if it was cut a little way.
Chop, 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 chop,
yep.
chop.
Garnish. Yeah. but he burned his fingers from the juice. And then he instinctively, and this is straight Finn McCool for you, instinctively put his fingers to his mouth to fucking lick the burn. Just like, and in doing that, he got some of the juices of the dragon heart into his mouth. And instantly he could understand birds and some other animals.
Shit.
Yeah.
Beastmaster.
Beastmaster is born. Beastmaster!
Actually, never watched that show, so...
Fucking awesome hair. There's some awesome hair in Beastmaster. The TV show, especially. That's the one where he had that, like, mullet going, too.
I thought it was like a mop cut.
Mop cut.
This looks like somebody put a mop on him.
He-Man!
Shoulder length for him.
Mm-hmm. So, right away, the birds were like, Sigurd, in case you can't tell, this dude's getting real schmeagly over here. He's about to try to kill you.
Oh, shit, motherfucker.
Tweet, that dude's gonna murder you.
Can you imagine, like, looking behind you and being like, is he fucking talking to birds?
Am I talking to a bird? I could see that confusion, too. Like, I think I might be losing it. A bird just told me everyone's out to get me.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So, Sigurd turned around, and actually it was there that he caught Rain in the act of trying to kill him.
Shit.
Because the heart was ready to eat. Yeah. So, but Sigurd with his badass sword just swung that big bitch around and chopped his fucking head clean off in one swing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And that's why I love, too, about Rain even threatening him. Like, I could kill you for killing my brother. Like, I feel like if I was Sigurd, I would just be like, could you?
So it looks like
could you, bro?
Siggy's, the original, all of his descendants can actually chop the head off with one cut, not make it look like it's definitely done by an axe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
They're all pretty good decapitators. This is a family of decapitators. So yeah,
didn't come from Siggy's side.
Yeah. So in killing him and capturing the treasure, Sigurd was now not only rich, filthy rich, but he got out of this, and this is like a fucking RPG style loot grab that he gets out of this. He gets the sword, Hrati, the Aegishamar, the Helm of Awe, the Golden Brine, Acurius, and also, yeah, he's now impenetrable and fucking... Oh, and he gets the magic ring, the Precious.
Making the curse fucking nothing.
Yeah.
So long as he keeps the sword on him.
So long as he keeps that sword on him, he's totally, totally cool. And then, on his way out, the birds were like, hey, yo, homie, peep this. There's a chick just sleeping on a mountain over there in a ring of fire. And she's a Valkyrie, and you should probably go hit that up. Also, we think she may have saved you as a baby. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Shit,
so
man.
they told him about Brunhilda. So Brunhilda, we talked about her in our last episode. She was a Valkyrie that was punished for disobedience, and then was encased in a circle of fire and fucking thorns. Some real Sleeping Beauty shit.
Mm-hmm.
Put to sleep.
But no spinning web.
No spinning web.
Right, that fucking thing.
The spinning web.
The wheel.
Oh, the wheel. Yeah. Oh, the fucking...
The sewing wheel.
Oh, what is it called? Loon. Isn't that it?
I don't
know. Loon. A loon is a bird or a crazy person.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Sigurd right away was like, yeah, totally. I'm all about that. I am fucking totally about some Valkyrie action.
I got nothing better to do. I got some going. Got some time.
Yeah.
Might as well. Let's get some pussy.
Let's get some puss. So yeah, he went and
I'm sure.
He sought out Brunhilda. He went to Hindfell. And then he, having all the shit that he did, chopped through all the fucking impenetrable thorn bushes because he could not be poked by anything.
Yeah.
So
honorable.
Yeah. Oh, the thorn bushes were poisoned too. I think that was the thing
Mm.
where they killed you. But he couldn't be penetrated, and he
Yeah.
had all that armor and his sword, so he just chopped
That's
through.
good.
Then he rode his horse up to the top of the mountain, and he was like, "Horse, what do you think about fire?" And his horse was like, "I'm come from fucking Slipnir, bitch. Let's roll," and just jumped right through the fire. Yeah. I mean, it's somewhat like the Django. The Django. That's more the medieval version, I guess. You get where
Mm-hmm.
because Django Unchained, they talk about Siegfried and Brunhilda,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, with it not being fear. But in the old version, the Norse version, it was really much like a zero fucks given.
Oh, yeah.
It was less about not having fear and more just like, why would I be
Glory!
afraid? Nothing can penetrate my impenetrable skin. I carry a sword that can chop anvils in two. And my horse is a fucking glorified badass.
It's a demigod.
He's a demigod, yeah. So yeah. Sigurd went up there and he woke her with a kiss.
Yeah.
Yay. Now, he pulled her armor off of her because he thought she was a dude, and he thought it was armor on a corpse. And that's what actually blew his mind, because she had Valkyrie armor.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what Odin did was he laid her down, put a blanket over her, and then put her armor and her shield on top of her. So he was like, what the fuck? You guys were wrong. It's just some badass Valkyrie armor up here. Like, high quality armor. And then when he got to the bottom, he was like, whoa. There is a naked lady under this armor. Yeah.
Oh, shit.
And then depending on how romanticized it is, either she woke up from him showing up, or he kissed her and woke her up. Oh.
I'll go with him.
He couldn't resist himself. But pretty much instantly, she knew who he was. Because she had kind of basically seen this coming all along.
Mm-hmm.
That the child that she helped rescue would eventually grow into the greatest Viking the greatest Viking ever. Yeah. So when she found Sigurd, she was totally stoked and happy to marry him.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, it seems like they didn't even go anywhere. They just stayed on the mountain for a while with each other and had a daughter named Aslog, who would later go on to marry another Viking from a different saga named Ragnar Lothbrok.
I know, the Ragnar sons.
The Ragnar sons.
Jesus
fuck. Yeah.
This lineage, man.
Exactly. It's all from the fucking Volsungs, man. It's all from, it's all from Siggy, the first one, yeah.
Odin.
Odin, yeah, it's all from Odin. Yeah. Yeah, and Ragnar's supposed to come from Odin,
that's
too.
Why
so
Odin
that's
keeps
another,
seeing Ragnar.
Yeah. Oh, God, that means the sons of Ragnar were all kind of incest babies a little bit. Yeah.
Different lines.
They were just like that Hercules incest.
Maybe it was just that their blood was starting to get weak.
Yeah.
He wanted to strengthen that shit. As Odin takes a bong rip.
Oh, father! Oh, father! So yeah. After they had their daughter, Sigurd told Brunhild that he still had duties to perform. But that he would come back for her and then take her off to be his queen.
Nice.
And Brunhild was like, yeah, totally, that's cool, because I can just sleep for as long as I want in this ring of fire. She's like as protected as you can possibly be, you know.
Yeah.
Best place for a single mother to raise a daughter in a mountain fortress built by Odin, surrounded by a ring of fire.
I guess, as long as she has food.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure she has food. Yeah. Oh, no, she's sleepy. She doesn't need food.
What about the daughter?
Oh, yeah, the daughter. Ooh.
You know, wait till she at least wakes,
yeah, I guess,
yeah,
let her grow up a bit. Let her go get married off, yeah. But, so yeah, Sigurd had to take off and do his thing. But before he left, Sigurd made sure to let her know that he loved her and gave her a token of his love. The magic ring, the Advaranat. Yeah.
He didn't know. It's not really his fault.
No, yeah. I do wish I had a dum-dum-dum button right now. Yeah. So, Sigurd journeyed north. He went to Burgundy, Rhine Burgundy, ruled by Guiki. And Guiki had married Grimhild, a wise woman witch, and had 3 sons, Gunnar, Hogni, and Goderum, and 1 daughter named Gudrun. So Gudrun had a dream of Sigurd, symbolized as a falcon, and later a stag. A hero she would marry and love, but eventually would be would be killed by her own family.
Oh, that sounds so nice.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Gudrun had also dreamed of her second husband that she had loathed, which we'll talk about him in the future. Because I'm pretty sure it was either her second or her third husband that was Attila the Hun, and that's where they tie in with the Huns.
Weird.
Yeah, which is totally weird because the Huns were like hundreds of years before Vikings. So, so basically, when Sigurd arrived at their house, Gudrun fell in love with him pretty much instantly, but Sigurd wasn't about that. You know, he was just there because he was stopping by. He had Brunhild waiting for him in his fucking mountain ring of fire.
Yeah, nothing better to do.
Yeah.
He had responsibilities of some kind.
He's like, I had to show up he probably had to go to a party or something. He's like, I didn't apply for a +1, and you got to do that 6 months in advance because it's Viking ages. Yeah. But either way, Gudrun's mom, the witch, got pretty into it and gave her daughter a love potion that she could give to Sigurd. And it wasn't as much of a love potion as it was a forgetfulness potion. And it made him completely forget that Brunhilda ever existed.
Oh, dick.
Yes. And in that,
dick.
They used all of their, basically everything at their disposal because they knew who Sigurd was. And a big part of it was the witch mom, who really wanted Sigurd as basically her son. Because, you know, if he marries her daughter, then it's like, oh, then I'm witch mom to fucking Sigurd. The Dragon Slayer, fucking big dick swinging with his magic swarm. Yeah. She's
a gold digger.
Yeah.
She wanted that money.
She wanted that money. Yeah. She wanted that precious. Yeah, so eventually, you know, Sigurd did fall in love with Gudrun, and he married her. And they had a son, which he named after his father. He named him Sigmund. And a couple of years later, they had a daughter named Svanhild. Svanhild. Yep. And then, basically his brother-in-law, Gunnar.
Gunnar.
Yeah. Wanted a woman who was totally worthy to marry. And he wasn't ashamed to totally bring Brunhilda back into the picture right under fucking Sigurd's eyes. Yeah. So...
What the fuck?
Gunnar went to Sigurd and asked him to help win Brunhilda as his wife. And basically, to do this, there was a series of challenges. In the medieval version, there was a series of challenges. But in the Norse, it was still, you know, you had to go through the fire. And you had to do all of that, make it through the poisonous thorns and the fire. But what they did is they disguised Sigurd as Gunnar. And Gunnar just had Sigurd do it.
Okay.
And when he got up there, Sigurd told her that he was Gunnar, and then stayed with her for 2 nights, which he slept with a sword in between them in the bed, so that they couldn't touch each other. And she was upset, and she thought it was weird, and she knew the rules. It was Odin's rule. She couldn't break it. Like, the man who comes up there to claim her gets to claim her. And because Sigurd had left without her, and not taken her, she was still left there for fair game. And so she had no choice but to go back and to marry Gunnar.
Oh, that's
Um,
fucked.
Yeah, and when she went back and lived with Gunnar. Gunnar and her moved away, so she never actually saw Sigurd. He was in armor the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't know it was Sigurd at all. And eventually, a few years later, they got into an argument. There was a little family meeting or a family dinner, and some of the ladies got into an argument. And it was Gudrun, I believe. Yeah, Gudrun, who rubbed it into Brunhilda's face because she had a better husband.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, she rubbed it into Brunhilda's face that Brunhilda had to marry someone way below her standard. You know, she had to marry just her brother, who was basically just like a duke or something.
Oh,
And
shit.
she's like, I got the fucking dragon slaying, treasure bearing hero, fucking big dick swinging, magic sword holding Sigurd. And Brunhilda, because she didn't forget, was pissed. Yeah. And that's when she realized that's what the sword was. And she had even somehow figured out, I believe it was that they let it slip, that
Sigurd
there was a
really
magic
on
potion
that
and
side.
Sigurd didn't remember her.
Uh-oh.
So he didn't, he couldn't do anything, but they also let it slip that it was him who came to rescue her, that it wasn't even Gunnar.
Oh, shit. I
And-
married this fucking
Yeah.
cockroach for nothing.
Yeah, and she hated Gunnar. It's
Oh, yeah.
they talk about that a bit, how she did not like Gunnar at all. And because she was very much
Sounds
a trophy.
like a pussy.
Yeah, and he was a pussy. He couldn't do any of the tasks in either this one or the medieval version, because he's in both. He couldn't do any of the tasks required. Sigurd had to do them all. Yeah. Yeah. So Brunhilda got mad, and basically what she did was, she got Gunnar and told Gunnar how she had never come forward about it before, but she was very upset at him for how forcefully he had taken her on those first 3 days.
Motherfucker.
Yeah, and so Gunnar got pissed because he's like, I sent my friend to rescue my wife, and he fucking went hard on her for 3 days, not knowing about the sword. So she sets up Gunnar to basically kill Sigurd. But Gunnar, because he has a blood oath with Sigurd, they can never kill each other. That's part of their oath. So Gunnar has to send his brother to kill Sigurd.
He doesn't got blood oath though.
Yeah, he doesn't have a blood oath, no problem. And like a total bitch, they roll on Sigurd while he's asleep.
Oh, he's not even holding the sword.
Not even holding the sword, but he picks it up because he kills them. He kills the men that come to kill him in his death throes.
Jesus.
Yeah.
The last bit of energy.
Yeah. His wife comes up to find the room a bloody mess, and she screams. Apparently a super loud scream, because they say Brunhilda was able to hear her. And Brunhilda laughed at the sound of her agonizing scream.
That's fucked. So
Yeah.
she loved him.
Yeah. And then
Why not kill the bitch?
And then Brunhilda told her husband that she was fucking lying about the sword. She told him about the sword and explained that you just had your best friend that you were in a blood oath with killed. You broke your fucking blood oath. Like, even though you say you didn't, you had him killed.
And now I get to kill you.
And so you broke your blood oath. And no, she does, well, I guess another part of it too was, another sad part was that the two children that he had, Sigmund and the daughter, they were both killed also.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah. And Brunhilda, after laughing and telling her husband, her current husband, that you ain't shit, you ain't never gonna be shit, you weren't ever shit, and that he killed his own friends, she fell on her own sword.
Oh.
And in her dying breath, wished to lay beside Sigurd on his pyre. and apparently it was either the Valkyries or Odin who came and took her from there and put her on fucking Sigurd's funeral pyre.
Huh.
So in death, the two of them were finally together.
Oh, that's fucked.
Yeah. And I think they both got to go to Valhalla, too. Yeah. I'm sure that's
they
good.
got that girl.
That worked out for them, until Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Yeah. Side note, the wife was super sad for a while, and then she married Attila the Hun.
Nice.
And eventually, I'm pretty sure they say she had something to do with his death, or the death of a bunch of his sons, or some shit. Because she did another crazy move. Yeah, they keep getting crazy. They get pretty crazy. And yeah, so now I'm gonna I'm gonna keep this short, but I'm gonna do a quick summary of some of the differences in the medieval version. So in the medieval version, the Volsungs do not exist, but the legends of the Volsungs are basically attributed to things Siegfried did as a knight. So instead of coming from the Volsungs, he comes from a noble family. And he gets knighted at a young age. And then he goes on all these grand adventures.
He's still Prince Charming.
He's Prince Charming. And they don't exactly say what they are, but they are all alluded to basically say that he went on all the Old Norse adventures. Like, he still did that. But he wasn't a Viking guy. He was a knight, a noble knight. And yeah, he found out about Fafnir.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, the Fafnir's treasure. No, wait, I got back on Sigurd. I went back a whole chapter there. He found out about Brunhilda through his friend Gunnar, who had wanted a bride. And there was one maiden that was supposed to be like the best fucking maiden, who was so good that she had been locked behind a wall of fire and poisonous thorns and was protected by a dragon. And once you met her, you also had to complete a series of tasks in order to wed her. And so, Gunnar talks Siegfried into helping him get Brunhilda. Okay. And by helping him, he means chopping his way through the poisonous bushes while Gunnar sits and cowers. Then,
much like before,
slaying the dragon.
Oh yeah, there's the dragon at the top.
Yeah, the same, and I think he slays it in the same way. He sneaks under it and stabs it in its heart, but slaying the dragon. While Gunnar cowers in the corner. Then they get to the top, and puts Gunnar on his horse, and they give fucking Siegfried a cloak of invisibility. And then Siegfried rides his horse through the flames with Gunnar just holding onto his back. And so it looks like Gunnar leapt through the flames. And then once they get there, he has to throw a boulder further than she can throw a boulder. And then
we're going in some competition.
Yeah, there's some competition. I know there's to throw a boulder, and I think there might have been an Atalanta, like run faster. But with the invisibility cloak, Siegfried does all the work. So fucking Gunnar pretends to throw the boulder. But it's really Siegfried who's invisible lifting up the boulder and throwing it. And he throws it further. And then the same, like, he picks him up and carries him in the foot race.
Wow.
And wins the race, yeah.
Just put your feet on top of mine, like we're tiny dancing.
Yeah. And then eventually, when it kind of ends in the same way, where... Hold me closer. Yeah, it eventually ends in the same way where she gets very mad when she finds out that he didn't complete any of the tasks. Yeah, and finds a way to make him go to war with Siegfried.
I would do.
Yeah.
Kill
It's
your
pretty
best
bad
friend.
shit. Pretty bad shit. But yeah, I hope you folks enjoyed this big two-parter. Like I said, the second one makes a lot more sense if you listen to last week's. So.
Honestly, you had me enthralled. I didn't know what to say.
Enthralled. Well,
Like
if you're
that.
thralled, then you better not hunt better than me. That's all I gotta say.
Excuse me. Your wife.
Siggy.
That doesn't make me enthralled anymore.
Siggy,
Just
666.
saying.
Enthralled.
What's your resources?
Oh. Okay. Yeah, this is gonna be fun. So my resources for today, I had Britannica. Always all about that Britannica. And then I read it through pitt.edu, but it is called the Nibelung. Nibelungen.
Nibelungen.
The Nibelungen. The Nibelungenlied. And it is a German folk story, believed to have originated in Austria. No one knows the author.
Interesting.
Yeah, but it's the story of Siegfried. And so that's where you get the medieval story of Siegfried. It came about in the 12th century, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and it's derived, obviously, Siegfried is 100% derived from Sigurd. But that version was definitely to throw him into that world of knights and chivalry and things like that. Yeah. And that's it. Hope you folks enjoyed. I hope you all had a good time.
Share it with your friends. Like.
Yeah. Let us know in the comments if you got any ideas or you want us to cover any stories. We're all game to do any stories. Or even if there's something we did, but you don't think we got deep enough on, and you're like, hey, fuckers, go do that again. We'll totally go do that again. We'll do it.
Check the polls for future poll.
Yeah, we're probably going to put out some polls in the future, because we like giving you guys feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Choice.
You get choice in your stories.
Sometime, but
yeah.
Eventually. Unless you special requested,
Yeah. I mean, the Krakow went fun. Krakow! Yeah. Dragon of Krakow!
That was a great one.
Yeah. Yeah. So, have a good night, everybody.
Yeah, have a good night.
Bye.